Hey everybody. So the great Mitch Marner saga going on up in Toronto has finally concluded as Marner has signed a 6-year contract with the Maple Leafs, making almost $11 million per season, just under that at $10.893 million per year. And that puts an end to a very crazy summer of tons of media coverage, tons of contract talks, lots of wondering how this was going to turn out, talks of offer sheets, talks of trades, talks of missing the season, talks of making over $11 million versus under $11 million. Just such a wild, one of the biggest stories of the past 4 months in the NHL has been Mitch Marner's contract. And with training camp starting up, preseason starting right this weekend, starting tomorrow, it came down to getting a deal done, and Toronto and Mitch Marner were able to get a deal done. Now, the interesting thing from my perspective is what took so long. If this was going to be the deal, why did this take so long? $10.893 million. Absolutely not an amount that is completely off of what everyone's been saying for the past 3 months. We all thought it would be right around 11, and it's just under 11. So the money is pretty much right on with what people thought it would be. 6-year deal. We knew Marner probably wasn't going to go for a 7 or 8-year deal, so they get 6. There was talk about a potential 3 or 4 3-year bridge deal, but I don't think the team was really too interested in that. They settle on 6, so it is a long-term contract. Why wasn't this done in June? If this was going to be the number and the years, why wasn't this done in June? What took so long? I think that the Marner camp budged on this, to be honest with you. Because there were all kinds of reports about him turning down, contracts $11 million per year, maybe even more. He's turning them down. He didn't end up getting more than 11. He got a little less than 11. There were talks about him wanting a 3-year deal and then being a free agent after that. He signed for 6. So I feel like this deal should have been on the table as soon as the re-sign period opened. Like, this should have been done in June if this was going to be the deal. And all this stuff that happened this offseason, all the media speculation, all the talk, could have been completely avoided if they had just, maybe Marner wouldn't have accepted this deal in June. And honestly, I think that that's the case. That's why I say I think Marner kind of budged on this. I do think that that's the case, because I think that there were deals just like this on the table. There were deals for more money that were reportedly on the table, and Marner kept turning them down. No. And it looked like this was going to go into the season, and this was going to be a big-time standoff. And now training camp starts, and $10.89 million? Okay, that's not bad. 6-year deal, that's the team's fine with that. Long-term deal. It's wild to me that this is after all the talk, all the debate, all the contract negotiations going back and forth, this is the contract that they come up with and both agree on, a deal that could have been agreed on back in June, because it's really not that any different than what anyone has been saying for the last 3 months. So Marner gets, a ton of money. Almost $11 million a year is a ton of money. And the team gets a 6-year deal out of it. So I say both sides gave a little and took some, and they came to a compromise. I just don't know why it took this long if this was going to be how it ended up. The other question is Mitch Marner worth almost $11 million a year? So Marner had a 94-point season last year. Spectacular year playing with John Tavares. Really, exploded offensively. And the Maple Leafs as a whole are a dynamic offensive team. And now the gang's all back together. I mean, the big parts of this team offensively, Matthews, Tavares, Marner, Nylander, they're all still there. The gang's all back together in Toronto now. So, like, is Marner worth this money? Well, there's been a lot of talk about his numbers being boosted because he played with John Tavares. Well, yes, that's how it works. The better players you play with, everyone's numbers get boosted. But, if Marner was on another team, he probably would not have had 94 points last year. But does that mean he's not worth $11 million? What's this team like without Mitch Marner? That's the question. If you lose Mitch Marner, what significant hit does that take on your offense? And, I don't know if he's going to repeatedly be a 90-plus point player. I think he can be. He's a very good player. And I think he is worth that if he continues to produce at a 90 to 100 point pace. Absolutely. However, for Toronto, you've got so much money tied up between Matthews, Tavares, and now Marner. And then you add Nylander's contract in that is a lot of money tied up in only 4 players. Your entire defense core, except for Morgan Riley, is on expiring contracts this year. You need a goaltender that's going to need a new contract in a couple of years. The cap situation in Toronto is not great, and this does nothing to help it. So, from a point standpoint, from a pure point production standpoint, yes, Marner is absolutely worth this contract. But to the Leafs, does he make a big enough difference to where they can spend that much of their salary cap on him when they don't have a whole lot of cap space to work with? Actually, right now, with Toronto is way over the cap at this point. Now, I don't know what the numbers are going to look like when they get guys on LTIR and they really send some guys to the minors, sort their whole roster out. I don't know what they're going to exactly be looking at cap-wise, but they are real close, real tight, maybe even over now. So, the cap situation, was it worth it to pay? You already have Tavares at $11 million. You already have Matthews over $11 million. Was it worth it to give Marner almost $11 million? Or could you have just gone on with Tavares and Matthews being the core of that team? We'll have to wait and see how it plays out and how much Marner, if he continues to produce at that level. If he does, then sure, he's worth it and he's a big part of that team's offense. If he doesn't, I mean, that's a huge deal. That is a huge deal if he doesn't continue to play the way that he did last season. So we'll have to wait and see, but the deal is done. I know there are quite a few Leaf fans out there and some that are on this channel that don't think the Leafs should have given Marner a deal this big. They don't think Marner is worth this much money. They think his numbers are largely inflated by playing with John Tavares. There are other Leaf fans who absolutely love Mitch Marner and think he's a tremendous young player and that it's going to, he's a really important piece for this team going forward offensively. Only time in his play is going to tell if he's worth it or not. But the deal is done. It's a 6-year deal, which I definitely think the team likes. It's under $11 million, which was kind of being used as like the base point. There was talk about maybe him wanting a little more than that. There was talk about him not being able to, not signing for much less than that. They got him just under $11 million. So it's a ton of money. It's a long-term deal, and we're just going to have to wait and see. But the saga is over. All the talk, all the media attention, all the speculation, all the reports, it's all over. Mitch Marner is signed. He is a Toronto Maple Leaf for at least the next 6 seasons. So with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. Check out all those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.